You can chain multiple conditions together to create an if-then or if-then-else or even a case statement type of condition where you can say, well, if the user chose 1, we'll do this. If they chose 2, we'll do this second action. If they chose 3 or 4, let's do the third action. And if they made no choice at all, let's do something else yet. I want to take a look at a very small portion of a workflow that we'll be creating. This is a new position request, and in this case, we got this diagram from the Information Technology Department, so they used a swim lane to show it to us. It's not quite as cuddly as some of the other diagrams we've looked at, but it's a great diagram that you want to get used to using. So we have a start. Somebody's completed a form and they've dropped it off, and this form is to request a new hire in a department, a position that doesn't exist already. And so the vice president for that area needs to review the request, and they have 2 possibilities. One is they're going to say yes, and if they do, it'll be passed along to the VP of Finance, and if they say yes, it'll be passed along to the VP of HR, and if they say yes, the position will be created. But at any point along the line, any one of these vice presidents could say no. No, I don't think we need another person against the budget. No, we don't need more people at all right now, or no, this isn't the time to hire because we're looking at some other types of alternatives. So if we just took a look at this section here, what we have is we have an if-then-else condition. If the request is approved by the area vice president, then we pass the request along to the next vice president. But if it is turned down, we're going to send an email back to the hiring manager and we're going to end our workflow. So this is how we want to read this. We have an if-then, but we also have an else, because if the if isn't true, there will still be an action taken. Let's take a look broadly at how we'll combine these conditions and actions into steps in SharePoint Designer. So here we are in SharePoint Designer, and we're looking at a skeleton of what we'll be doing with this particular workflow. Because you don't have to publish every single thing you save in SharePoint Designer, this is actually another valid way to think about outlining a workflow. So I'm looking back and forth at the diagram that I was given, and I was saying, okay, well, we're going to process the area vice president approval first. Somebody's dropped the form off, and the very first person that sees it is the area vice president. So we're going to email that area vice president and wait for some change to happen. Now, we actually have a form where they're going to check a box for approval or not, but more importantly, they're going to set a date. So when we take a look at that date field, if the date field has changed, then we can take a look at the checkbox. If the checkbox is true or if the checkbox is false, we're going to do 2 different things. In this case, first, if the checkbox is false, that area vice president said, nope, you don't get that new hire, we're going to email the hiring manager back, stop the workflow, and we're going to log a message to stop the workflow. So this is that first branch where we're saying the answer is no, tell the hiring manager, nope, you're not going to get that person, and stop the workflow. We're not passing along anywhere else. The other possibility is the possibility of yes. So the area vice president says yes. We're going to go ahead and we're going to say we're going to email it on to the Vice President of Finance for their approval. In this particular workflow, we're going to have a box just like this that actually occurs 3 different times. Once for the Area Vice President, once for the Finance Vice President, once for the Vice President of HR. In each case, each has the possibility of saying yes, but each has the possibility of saying no. And if they say yes, we pass it forward. If we say no, then we're going to email folks back upstream to say, hey, sorry, you can't have this hire, and then we're going to stop the workflow and log. So this is how we do if, then, else condition building here in Microsoft SharePoint Designer.